Dragon Age of Veilguard rumored to have sold less than Star Wars Outlaws. You got this from the Endymion video, John.
Correct.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, so he basically says that his inside source from EA or close to EA and BioWare says that they only sold about 500,000 copies of this game so far in its first week. Obviously, Star Wars Outlaws rumored to have sold about 1 million. We know Ubisoft said that their sales were soft and it was underperformed. We also know that they significantly reduced their Q2 earnings or their net sales, net bookings, whatever you want to call it, from 500 million euros to a range between 350 to 370 million. They eventually came out, it was 351 million, so it was 30% decline. And I think we can safely say that most of that was from Star Wars Outlaws. We also knew that one analyst was speculating that it was going to be 5 million units sold in that first month. And that was on the conservative end. And he was like questioning, like, that seems really low. Like, you guys are hyping this up. Shouldn't it be a lot more than that? And it came in 20% of that low expectation. So if what Endymion source is saying here is true, this is absolutely abysmal for Dragon Age Veilguard. Obviously, you still have 3 weeks to kind of double that number, but from everything that I've seen, most of the game sales are usually done within kind of that first week. You can look at Alan Wake. I just did an article about Alan Wake 2. Remedy reported that basically in the first, 2 months, I guess, from the end of October to December, it sold about 1 million units, and then it sold another 300,000 through January. And they have literally stopped reporting the numbers on that game completely. And they still say they haven't broken even. And there's an analyst that says they spend about 70 million euros on that game. So they should be really close to breaking even. If they sold 1.3 million units, that's around I don't have the calculation in front of me, but it's like around $60 million or something like that. So it's pretty close, right? They only needed to sell like 200,000 more units or something like that to break even, and they still haven't. So I think that kind of, and I'm using that as an example to show like they made all their sales basically in those first like 2-3 months. And Dragon Age: The Veilguard obviously sitting at 500,000 is not good because this game I think at least had to sell probably somewhere around 5 million is what people are kind of estimating based on the 10-year dev cycle and things like that. I think it's probably a lot higher given the fact that it is a 10-year dev cycle. We have all of these iterations that they were doing. It was going to be a multiplayer game, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen Concord have rumored to have a $400 million just production budget. That was you don't even factor in the what they paid to buy Firewalk Studios. We've seen all of these games kind of have these like massive budgets, very similar to what we've been seeing in the movie and television industry. So my guess is that the budgets are probably a lot higher than what a lot of people are estimating based on like kind of employment costs and things like that. So it's really, really, really bad if this 500,000 number is accurate for the first week. And we kind of see it too, right? We see the Steam numbers didn't even break 90,000. So it hit like 89,000. I think the last I saw it was like below 60,000 in the last 24 hours. Might even be lower than that now. So yeah, 50,000 now. So it fell even further. I'm guessing I would not be surprised. Like this is kind of what I was thinking. It would be below half by Sunday within the week of hitting its peak. So yeah, you're seeing it fall on the charts. And we saw all this, right? Like it didn't even get to the top of the sellers list until maybe like the 2 or 3 days beforehand. You had the information from your retail insider. I was hearing information from a retail insider as well. So we kind of saw all this stuff. You look at the PlayStation pre-orders, it was not really high on the list until all those games came out, like Sparking Zero, Metaphor Refantazio, and the only reason why it moved up is because all those games came out and they were no longer on the pre-order list. So we saw all the signs here, and so this is not really surprising, but it could be a little. I think it's worse than what a lot of people were expecting. I think to me, this is worse than what I was even expecting. I was thinking around Star Wars Outlaws is what I was seeing, and it might not even do that. So. Which I'm happy for. I'm happy that this game is absolutely failing because everything I've seen from this game is that it is a thinly veiled piece of propaganda meant to lecture people through politics and ideology. And at the same time, it's also trying to humiliate people by like, look what we did to Dragon Age. This is ours now. We took a dump on it, and we're going to still try and hope that you're going to spend your money on it to play this toy that we pooped on. And we're not having that. You can play with that poopy toy and enjoy that and we're going to point and laugh at you for pooping on the toy in the first place. We don't want anything to do with a poopy toy.
Nobody wants poopy toys anywhere.
That's right.
Did you see,
No.
John, do you have any relationship with Jason Schreier?
Absolutely not. He blocked me on X after I called him out for being disingenuous and a professional liar.
Oh, well, there you go. Right. That's probably a good reason. Well, speaking of, he had his tweet that got passed around a little bit ago about go broke, go straight to the top of the charts. And then,
that's why I called him a professional liar. Yeah.
Well, and he has since deleted that tweet. I'm sure that, I don't know if you saw that earlier today, but
I saw that going around. I wasn't sure. I didn't double check. So I love that I can go in and look at these people who blocked me now. So thank you, Elon, for that.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's been sad to see, to say the least. But
that guy lies all the time. Sorry, like he was running damage control for Suicide Squad, saying it had nothing to do with DEI. He keeps saying that it has nothing to do with DEI, and it's like over and over and over again. There's people saying that they don't want to purchase the game for DEI. Like that is evidence that people don't want this stuff. There is a literal 500,000 Steam curator group that Cabrutus Rainbow created that is literally like anti-DEI. You cannot tell me that there are people that are. You cannot tell me that these games aren't failing because of DEI. There is so much evidence to the contrary.
The idea that the culture aspect of this has played zero part in the failure of these games is truly like living in a bubble. Like, no. It goes back to the, I've used this all the time, the Principal Skinner meme from The Simpsons, where he's like, am I out of touch? No, it's the kids who are out of touch. It's very much, I feel like that meme encapsulates the video game industry the best way possible along there. But Raina, have you heard about Dragon Age: Veilguard at all?
I briefly heard about the game. As soon as I saw screenshots, I'm like, oh no, yet another game with ugly chicks and effeminate men that I do not want to play. As for me, for quite a period of time, I wasn't playing video games because life happened or whatever, but I was buying a lot of video games. So now that I'm getting back into it, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Because the game, it was just usually, hey, games for gamers, this game is awesome, I want to play it, or it's just like, the gameplay sucks, you can pass on that. And people they just wanted good games. Now it's just like, okay, we have LGBTQ Skittles Nation, whatever, diverse representation, and that's the best thing about this game. And it's just like, no, that's not what I want to buy a game for or play a game for, nor want to be shamed because I'm not into it, and quiet and it's not quiet. Okay. Women like to play hot women characters as well. Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there.
We all know this. It's actually scientifically been proven. There was a study going around over the last week or so about that. How when given the opportunity to play a non-attractive character versus an attractive character, all women chose the hot character. It's just the way it goes. So, well, I'm with you, John. I thought this game would actually do better than it actually is. I thought that from a viewership standpoint or from a player-based standpoint, it would cap out at about 150,000 real-time players over on Steam. And if they're not going to do DLC to it, there's zero chance that they're just going to see this giant spike in player base. So what you have is what you get here with this game. And what you have is an underperforming game, no matter what the media will tell you. The traditional access media will tell you is that this is doing just fine. No, like, don't gaslight us and tell us what we're seeing. The data available that is publicly available is that it's doing just fine. There's a 0% chance this is doing just fine. And I guarantee EA is going like, yo, what happened? Like, what happened here? BioWare along the way.
Yeah, and that's actually something people have been like giving Endymion a lot of crap for with his Ghost of Yotai reporting, because they're like, how did the Sony people not realize it? Well, we just found out that Sony is hyper siloed, and I bet EA is very hyper siloed as well. They keep their studios separate from each other, so the EA people probably aren't as involved with what was going on in BioWare, and now they're realizing what's happening. They're like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening? Yeah, clearly not the breakout potential that EA CEO Andrew Wilson was saying about the game, though, just before Halloween when the game came out.
Right. Right, 100%. Well, the fact that it sold less than Star Wars Outlaws is probably the most fascinating thing about this, because that game, it's obviously been considered a failure, drastically underperforming. But this Veilguard, I thought would underperform. I didn't think it would underperform this poorly, and that's probably the most shocking thing about this. So,
and the biggest piece of evidence that it isn't doing well is they have posted nothing. There's no, we sold 1 million units. There's no, we sold 3 million units. There's nothing like that. What did we hear from Atlas? Metaphor Refantazio, 1 million units sold, 24 hours. What did we hear from Bandai Namco? 3 million units sold, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. What did we hear from Bandai Namco about Unknown 9 Awakening? Nothing. Crickets, right? So that's the same developer who is bragging about how well their Dragon Ball game did, but is not saying anything about their SBI infected Unknown 9 Awakening game. I mean, you can go back, you can look at Game Science with Wukong, you can look at Space Marine 2. They had a post about selling 1 million units as well. Space Marine 2 had more concurrent players than Dragon Age. It got over like 225, I think. So, and that's a AA game with a way lower budget, and that did absolutely phenomenally well, like outperformed Dragon Age just completely.